I should have known something was off. When my husband Marcus insisted on driving separately to the airport. I need to pick up my parents first, he said, avoiding my gaze. Just grab an Uber to gate 7. We'll meet you there after 6 years of marriage. I had grown accustomed to his family, subtle digs about my working-class background. Marcus hailed from old money, and his parents had made it clear from the start that I was a blessing for someone of my status. Still, I kept my chin up. This trip to Paris was supposed to be a new beginning for all of us. I arrived at LaGuardia Airport, well ahead of schedule, 2 hours early as planned. My modest carry-on was packed with only the essentials. Over the years, I'd learned to travel light after enduring my mother-in-law's constant criticism about my unfashionable wardrobe, with my suitcase rolling beside me. I scanned the busy terminal searching for Marcus and his parents. Miss Davis, a flight attendant in a sharp uniform, approached your family. Asked me to pass on a message. My stomach churned. She handed me a note written in my mother-in-law's perfectly looped handwriting. Dear Emma, after much consideration, Marcus and I believe it's best if you don't accompany us to Paris. We've decided this trip should be family. Only we've cancelled your ticket. Perhaps you can use this time to reflect on why you'll never truly fit in with us. Mary, my hands trembled as I reread the note. The years of emotional warfare wrapped up in a few cruel words. I pulled out my phone, dialing Marcus's number. It went straight to voicemail. Well, look who's still here. Mary's voice sliced through the bustling airport noise. I turned to see my husband along with his parents, all impeccably dressed in designer travel attire. Emma, didn't you get our note? This is a family affair. I am family, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, my heart pounding in my chest. Marcus, please, I'm your wife. Marcus wouldn't even look at me. Mums, right. Emma, this is an important business trip. We're meeting with potential investors. You just embarrass us like at the gala last year. His father, Charles, chimed in, bringing up your little community college job in front of the CEO's wife. Embarrassing, I fought the sting of tears pushing them down. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction I paid for my ticket myself. You can't just cancel it. Mary's smile curled into something cold. Actually, we can. Marcus paid for all the tickets, including yours. A quick call to the airline and poof. Gone now. If you'll excuse us, we need to check in for our first-class flight. They turned, dragging their expensive luggage toward the first-class counter. Marcus hesitated, but followed them without so much as a glance back. I stood there, humiliated and stranded, while my husband once again chose his toxic family over me. The airline employee who had delivered the message looked awkward, her face sympathetic. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Let me help you book a new ticket. That won't be necessary. A smooth, deep voice interrupted. We both turned to see a distinguished man in his 50s. His suit was sharp, his eyes warm. But resolute, I'm John Whittaker, CEO of Sky Elite Airlines. I couldn't help but overhear what just happened. Mary's face drained of colour. Marcus and Charles stopped, mid-checking, clearly rattled by the sudden shift in attention. Miss Davis, if you would come with me, please. Mr. Whittaker gestured toward a quiet lounge area. I think we need to have a chat about what just transpired and perhaps review some footage from last year's gala. I followed him without hesitation, my heart beginning to settle as I realised something might actually be done about this. As we walked, I heard Mary's shrill voice from behind Marcus. Do something that's John Whittaker. He runs all our international routes. But for the first time in years, I didn't care. Mr. Whittaker pulled out his phone and made a quick call. Megan, pull up all recent bookings for Marcus and Mary Davidson. Yes, all their future flights as well. Also, grow the footage from last year's gala. It's time to have a very serious conversation about how some of our passengers are treating our staff. I sat down in the lounge, still shaking, but straightening my back with a newfound sense of power. Tell me everything, Miss Whittaker said kindly, pulling out a notebook, and don't hold back. I'm quite interested in hearing everything your in-laws have done at Sky Elite. We take our passengers, wear very seriously, and I have a feeling your in-laws are about to experience an expensive lesson in karma through the glass walls of the lounge. I could see Marcus and his parents arguing furiously with airport staff their check-in had been suspended, pending review. Mary was livid, her face twisted with fury, and for the first time in 6 years I allowed myself to smile. The next hour was a game changer as I sat with Mr. Whittaker. The layers of my husband's family's true colours were peeled away like the flimsy facade. It was, "Your in-laws have quite the reputation with us," Mr. Whittaker said, scrolling through his tablet. Multiple incidents of berating staff demanding perks and threatening to use their connections to destroy careers. But the gala, that's what really caught our attention. The gala, how could I forget, Mary had insisted, Marcus. Take me only to spend the entire evening undermining me, calling me the hired help. What she didn't know was that while she was belittling my job, I had spent a good portion of the night discussing educational reforms with the CEO's wife, Mrs. Whittaker, as it turned out was the former teacher herself. My wife was impressed with you that night. Mr. Whittaker continued, his voice warm. She said you were the only one who spoke about something other than status or wealth. We've been watching Marcus and Mary ever since, and frankly, we've seen enough. He tapped a button, and a video played on the lounge's large screen. There was Mary at the gala, visibly intoxicated, demanding that a flight attendant be fired because her champagne wasn't chilled to her liking. Another clip showed Charles bullying a customer, service rep insisting on a free upgrade because he was close friends with the CEO. The best part, Mr. Whittaker smiled, shaking his head. They never recognised me, too busy flaunting their wealth to notice the one person they should have been watching. My phone buzzed, another call from Marcus. I let it ring through now. Mr. Whittaker said, his voice calm but firm. Letton, talk about your travel plans. First, your ticket wasn't actually cancelled. Your husband's attempt to do so raised the red flag for potential financial control, which automatically triggered a review. I gasped. Marcus had always been financially manipulative, but I had never considered it abuse. Furthermore, Mr. Whittaker continued, I'm upgrading you to real first class, not the hybrid business first seat your in-laws book to make themselves look wealthier than they actually are. And as for them, just then, we heard Ma's voice cut through the lounge walls. This is outrageous. Do you know who we are? Mr. Whittaker pressed a button activating the intercom. Actually, Mrs. Davidson, we know exactly who you are. Your family's booking privileges with Sky Elite Airlines have been suspended, pending review. Your first-class tickets have been cancelled, and you're receiving a refund in airline credit, which you can't use until your suspension is cleared in approximately 1 year. The look on Mary's face was priceless. She whipped around, saw me through the glass, and turned an impressive shade of crimson. Marcus started to move toward the lounge, but security quickly intercepted him. One more thing, Miss Whittaker added, speaking into the intercom again. We shared our concerns about your behaviour with our partner. Airlines, I believe, you'll find your travel options significantly limited. Charles's face contorted in anger. You can't do this. We have connections. Yes, Mr. Whittaker replied. Unfaced. You had connections. Past tense. Now, if you'll excuse us, Ms. Davis and I need to finalise her travel plans. Perhaps you three should look into train schedules. What happened next was pure chaos. Mary tried to bulldoze her way into the lounge, but was swiftly blocked by security. Charles immediately called his lawyer, who apparently reminded him that airlines have every right to refuse service to abusive passengers, and Marcus. Well, Marcus finally showed his true colours. Emma, he shouted from behind the glass, fix this, tell them we're family. I stood up and walked over to the glass, locking eyes with my husband for the first time, in what felt like forever. Family. I asked, my voice low. but steady, like when you cancelled my ticket, like when you let your mother belittle me for years. I pulled off my wedding ring and held it up. Letting the diamond catch the light, consider this cancelled too. Mr. Whittaker's assistant appeared with new documents in hand. Your new ticket, Ms. Davis? She said, handing me the papers with a smile. And we've also contacted our hotel partner in Paris. They've set up a suite for you, separate from your soon-to-be ex-husband's reservation, which we've conveniently lost 2 hours later. I settled into my luxurious first-class pod, sipping champagne and watching through the window as Marcus and his parents fought with customer service over economy seats. They were separated, merry-wedged between two burly bodybuilders, Charles next to a crying baby, and Marcus stuck in a middle seat by the bathrooms. But the best part, the following week, while they were stranded in Paris scrambling to book return flights with budget airlines. I was meeting with top-tier divorce attorneys. Mrs. Whittaker had recommended the best firm in the city, the very one that had handled her sister's high-profile divorce from a financially controlling husband, with the evidence of Marcus's financial manipulation coupled with the airline incident. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly swift. Marcus's family's reputation was shattered. It turned out that many others had similar stories of their mistreatment of social inferiors, and they were all too eager to share them. 6 months later, I was single teaching at a Sish university, thanks again to Mrs. Whittaker's glowing recommendation, and flying first class to education conferences on my own terms. Meanwhile, Marcus and his family had been blacklisted by most major airlines. They were relegated to budget flights, often escorted by air marshals, who had been briefed on their abusive behaviour. The last I heard, Mary had caused a scene at a budget airline counter and ended up arrested. Charles's business contacts had quietly distanced themselves, and Marcus, well, he was living in his parents' guest room, his career a wreck after the details of his treatment toward me became public. As for me, I was finally free every time I flew Sky Elite. There was a note tucked into my ticket envelope. Welcome aboard, Ms. Davis. Thank you for showing us what true class looks like. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising above while your enemies sink under the weight of their own cruelty. And as I soared through the clouds in first class, I couldn't help but smile. The view from up here was absolutely perfect.